And hello, everybody. My name is Sol Nicolas, and here we have my friend James. It's a pleasure to be with everybody today. Welcome to the Life Hackers podcast. This is the second episode. Today, we are talking about a mission to teach coding to 1 billion people. This is the mission of my friend James, which actually I
Hey,
have. Sorry, what did you say, James?
I said no. Go on.
Okay. No, basically, James is a friend of mine. Is a developer who teach people how to code through his YouTube channel. And when I met him, he actually were doing these live sessions where you bring an idea and then he helped you to create that idea to make an MVP of your app. Coming from zero knowledge, I had zero knowledge of coding at the time. We were able to make a simple MVP working in 2 sessions, so that was pretty cool actually. And that's how I met James. So it was a big inspiration for me as well to start my own podcast. I see how fun is to do this YouTube business. So that's pretty interesting. And well, so I would like to start with asking you if you could share a bit about yourself, James. Where are you from and what is your background?
Sure, Soul. Thanks for having me as well. Big fan of your work. Also, I saw the first couple episodes of your podcast and really enjoyed it. So, my name is James, and I am a software engineer and educator, and I am from New Hampshire in the United States, which is this beautiful green state that you can see out my window, where I often stream on YouTube or make videos or teach online courses about software, AI, coding, STEM, all sorts of fun stuff.
Amazing. And like among all the things you could do in life, why did you choose coding?
Why did I choose coding?
Yeah.
Well, when I was a kid, um, it's almost like it chose me. I don't really remember the exact moment that I got interested in computers, but I remember just having a lot of curiosity. And I think the first time I played with a computer, I just wanted to know how everything worked. Then, when I grew up later, after I taught myself a little bit of coding, I learned how I learned how important computers actually are, in the world. But initially it was just the curiosity of a black box, and then trying to figure out what's going on inside and how I can make it do different things.
Do you remember on those first interactions, like any game or application that grab your attention when you were a kid?
Yeah. So the the application that really grabbed me initially, we had this application for I think it was Mac OS 9. Uh, this was back in the early 2000s, and it was called Microworlds. And basically, you'd have a white screen, and you have a little black turtle, and the black turtle can be pointing up, left, right, down, any way, and you can program in commands. On one part of the screen, you can program in the commands, and you can make the turtle do different things. So really, you could make your own game. You could make geometric drawings, and yeah, you could learn how to code, and it was really simple. Yeah, and this was all the way back. This was ages ago. Yeah,
Okay, so basically, like that kind of light up the fire of your curiosity because you were like, okay, this little turtle here, and what can I do with it?
yeah,
Like because if it was everything given at the time, maybe you will not ask like, hey, what can I do? But the fact that you could code on it and make it move or make the stuff was kind of having the ability to create something, no? To
yeah.
make you going for it. And did your parents like kind of guide you through the process? They were close to computer, or it was you alone with the machine starting figuring out the things?
Um, Not really, no. I figured it out on my own. Um, we had some educational games, in the household, but all of the coding stuff, I figured out, from scratch. And I guess it was probably HTML, maybe
Hmm.
logo, HTML and maybe logo. I can't remember which one came first. Probably HTML iron first, some
Hmm.
CSS, and also logo the turtle programming language. And these ones, yeah, you could actually just learn them from experimentation and trying different things and searching stuff up on the internet.
Amazing. I mean, my first steps were I was interested in a game that was about snowboarding or no, a
Oh,
ski. A ski. You were doing a ski with a small character, and you
cool.
need to go around the trees. And there was a bear, polar bear, trying to eat you at some point. So that's kind of pretty fun. But later on, I recall that what brought me into asking myself how things worked is when the first time I wanted to connect to internet and it was not allowed. Like two things made me interested. Like once I want to connect to internet and the people there didn't give me kind of the password. So I was
Mhm.
like, huh, how can I connect to internet even if people don't want to give me the password? If I just want to go for it. Or the second, when I was in the library of the school and the computers were having a lot of restrictions. So I was like, why can't I open or why can't do certain things? Like how this works? Like how can I change that? So I think that what lighted up my curiosity was how can I go beyond of the barriers that were imposed to me
How
in
did you
both sides.
figure it out? What did you end up doing?
So in the beginning, I find out that there was an admin session,
Yeah.
and then I learned these basics of social engineering, which like okay, what could be the most possible passcode that this account will have. So I tried the names of the school along with another things, and I ended up figuring out. Actually, I realize people many times they don't take a lot of effort. They just go for whatever is easy to remember sometimes. And then that was fun because then I could do some stuff with the admin account. And then I eventually, when time passed, I was like, how can I enter into the local network? By the time I was 12, yeah, I was still pretty young. So how can I enter into the local network? Then I realized there was I discovered Linux. So I discovered I could install a Linux OS um, from a USB or a CD into this computer session, so I can have my own environment and control it, so I can track the network. Those were things I learned on the process, which I found pretty awesome at the time. There was just not many people I could talk about those kind of things, but
Yeah.
that made me curious. So I ended up learning not that much about the computer deeply, but more about how networks work, which I
Cool.
found interesting because today I work with networks. I work with fiber optic infrastructure, so it kind of makes some sense out of it.
There
But
are there are 2 movies you should see if you haven't seen them. One is, Hackers. Have you ever heard of this movie?
no,
It's a movie from, um it's a 1995 movie with Angelina Jolie, and then
hmm,
there's another movie you should see called, War Games.
the war games.
War Games. Have you seen that one? War Games?
Neither of them, but I'm writing them right now. So hackers and war games.
Yeah, you'll
Uh,
see why. It has a lot to do with what we just talked about.
Amazing. I will. I'm gonna watch them so we can touch upon that later. Thank you for the recommendation, James. And of course, now that we discover some of our initial motivation, when and how did you realize that you enjoy helping people learn to code? Because one thing is to want to code. Like in general, one thing is that people master an ability or whatever, and another thing is the desire of sharing that with others. So how that came into your life? Like, did you work as a software engineer, and what happened there?
Hmm, that's a good question. I didn't realize it um I didn't consciously realize it for a long time, but I was already doing it. When I was in high school, I actually tutored a couple of people in programming, and I was always wanting to explain to people, the things that I had learned and the stuff I had learned. Um, but I didn't have like a lot of people, even into high school, to sort of like talk about that stuff too. But I was always wanting to teach people. Um, when I was older, I actually taught English for a couple of summers with kids, and that was one of the most fun things that I've ever done. And later on, when I was in university, I started a small YouTube channel with a friend, and we were teaching people mostly about math and physics, and that was also super super fun. That one's still on YouTube, and
What's the name?
it's called Rock It Science, like ROCKIT Science. It's I think it's YouTube. I think it's YouTube.com/at Rocket Science. And that was just um, yeah, fun stuff we were doing. And yeah, I guess later on there was a point where I just realized um, this is it. And I realized, and as I grew older, I realized how important it was. It wasn't just something that I enjoy doing, but it's also something that's really important for the world.
Do you think has this happened to you? One of the reasons I like to share with people things I learn. Uh, One part it has to do with the fact of sharing with somebody something I learned helped me to understand it better. That's one of the things, like because I need to summarize, I need to make it more concise in order to deliver it properly. And sometimes upon the people questions when I'm telling about something, it helped me to understand it deeper. And other times it also has to do with having the opportunity to help people unlock opportunities and possibilities to the things they learn. But how it is it for you? Do you find joy, or what happened when you share with other people things you learn?
Yeah, I think for me, probably just I spent so much time when I was young, learning from the internet, books, um, just wherever I could find information. I was learning by myself, that when I had the chance to just share that excitement, about discovering something new about the world, then that was just like way more fun than what I had been doing, which was learning by myself. And I've talked to like other people that love teaching people for free, and it just seems to be like not something that people do naturally. I've met people that have made all of their assignments from university like free on an online Google Drive, and made guides for all of their fellow students, just for the pure enjoyment of helping people. And I think that's like one thing that no matter what happens, people will always be willing to do that for free.
Like there is joy on that people find joy on sharing. I
Yeah,
guess
people
that's
people love to share knowledge, and I think it makes them feel important.
I think I agree with that feeling. mm, and I guess it comes natural, like at least for me, it's like wow, when I discover something that I find valuable, I find man, this is pretty cool. It's like I think the fact of sharing it with somebody else make it even cooler, because now there's more people that can enjoy. It's kind of that effect that like sometimes we are there are people like us that find joy on sharing that with others. I guess not everybody goes the same way, but I get it completely.
And also,
And
you just have all of this extra information available to you. If I'm sharing new things that I learned with 5 friends, and they're all sharing with 5 friends, then I have the knowledge of all of those different people, right? Sort of at my disposal, because I can then they'll then share stuff back with me.
you grow the network basically.
Yeah,
You
and
have that
that's
effect.
like more than 100 people's worth of knowledge right there, just within 2 degrees of connection.
That's pretty cool. Actually, I mean, that's like back to
Yeah,
the fundamentals of the internet.
right, yeah.
Like when we get to that point, it's back to the fundamentals of the internet. But I guess just making a kind of a small thing here, an idea. I found it interesting what you just said because that is kind of how it happens with cells. You know, human cells they tag to each other, and they tag to bioelectricity, right? And the funny part is like there is a memory that is part of one cell. A cell itself has some of its own memory, but there is collective memory that is produced by the knowledge of all the cells together. And it's funny, it's because it kind of works like into a cloud, into a collective cloud.
Mhm.
So when you share more, you get access to more somehow. You get more access to it. If you unlock yourself, then you just have certain access to certain degree of information. But talking about the spreading the voice and just get to more reach to more people on that mission, how is the journey towards teaching code to 1 billion people going,
How's
and
it
how
going?
that started? Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're well underway. I've probably taught to we're definitely in the hundreds. And if we look at the people that are following me on YouTube, for example, that's more than 1,000. So we could even say maybe we're in the thousands right now. So yeah, we just need to add, a couple more zeros onto there, then we'll be there. So I think that it all started around 2 years ago is when I really made the intention um, to to really go online and put myself out there and just start trying to teach different topics. And I knew that it was going to be um, a lot of a lot of trial and error at the beginning. So the first thing that I did was I said, okay, I'm going to make a YouTube channel and I'm going to make in a month. I think I'll try and make 20 videos and whatever whatever happens, not even to care about the views. When I make these first 20, I'm just gonna put them all out there and see what happens.
Hmm. And what was that first reaction to your first to initial effort? How did you felt when you saw what happened after that?
Oh, you mean like the reaction to the
To your
internet's reaction
video,
to what I made?
uh-huh, like yeah, how you felt on that, because I guess this becomes an interaction, no? You put in value out there, you making the videos, and then you see like how people start reacting or connecting with what you are doing. How that felt for you, and and was it important for you how many people at that time watch your videos, how that whole thing worked for you at that time?
So I knew initially um, that I wouldn't be able to get like a lot of views quickly, and that I didn't know what was going to work. So actually, I didn't really care at all about views, at all in those first few weeks. I just made those videos and I put them out there, and I probably got a small number of views on each video. Probably less than 100. During that time, I would probably have less than 100, I'm sure, on each of those videos. Now, interestingly, some of those videos today, of those 20 that I'm telling you about, it was probably 10 to 20 that I put out in the first month. Um, some of them still have less than 100, and some of them have, I think, more than 50,000 views.
Wow. That become exponential effect compounding over time.
So I think that's why it's so important to, when you're trying something out new, to actually not care too much about the uh, about the reaction that people give you initially, because I really had to just put stuff out there and then wait, you know?
Hmm. No, no, I totally feel you because
Yeah,
that's how I felt with my first like episode on the podcast. It's like what I realized talking to how you felt is like the reason why I start this. It is not yet necessary um, to reach millions of people or thousands. For me, it starts with it's something valuable to me, something I find valuable, and I enjoy to bring these deep conversations with people I appreciate, people I respect, and kind of have the opportunity to rediscover uh, them through these conversations, through this podcast. So that make me feel way more relaxed about how many views it will get and anything because it just starts with me. And I guess that when we do that type of commitment, same as you, like I will put this value out there. It comes from me, from my desire to do it. So it makes things more easy because you are not conditioned to the reaction. Because if you we are conditioned to the reaction, oh my god, if people don't see this, then I will not do it anymore. Then we are
yeah,
kind of fucked uh, because the things sometimes they take the time they need. Like of course, and if that's not a problem for us in the beginning, then you have the chance to keep on going, right? Which is what happened with you. Like you make that commitment, and eventually you keep on going. And
yeah.
how did you find that interaction between the first set of videos to the next one? How when did you start really feeling that you were reaching out to people, that people start interacting with you, like over how many months or how many videos you start feeling that kind of relation?
So after that first set of videos, I think I put out a few more, and then I think I took a break on YouTube for 6 months to a year, and, it was in that time actually, in after months that the first videos actually started, um, to go viral, um, and, it was just something got picked up by the algorithm, something random, and then it just, a couple, maybe 2 of those just started, to snowball, and then later on, I look back and I was like, "Interesting. Okay, there's something I can learn a lot from this data that came in." So, obviously, those ones got comments, and, it was pretty funny because initially, the only people who'd commented or replied on my videos were, just some friends I had, um, and, they sent me some comments, and we just laugh about it. But then, like, comments started to come in, like, one after the other on some of these videos, and like, on YouTube, everything is, like, positive comments. If you're doing this kind of educational content,
Hmm.
like, you can have, dozens of positive comments and not a single comment because that's just how people are on YouTube that are looking to learn. They're not looking to say they're positive. There's a lot of, like, positive energy out there. And yeah, that's kind of what got me to motivated me to go further.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, you just mentioned something that is funny to me because my experience, I think I told you once that I have this secret AI viral YouTube channel. I always
Mhm.
keep it secret because I was so ashamed of that type of content because for me it was an experiment. So I have no judgment of what is good, bad content. I just want to see if I use a theory or a thesis of how I gonna reach, like how I gonna make the algorithm reach to a lot of people, and I just want to see if that was true, and that ended up being true. Like almost every day I was doing a video, and they were just keeping on 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 views, and they keep on growing. But when I read the comments, it's so funny because it was one positive comment, there were like 20 hate
Oh,
comments.
really?
Yeah, and that actually got me crazy because that was the thing that made those videos going. Like it was funny, it was people just hating on what was happening there, and that make more people jumping into the comments and kind of saying stuff about the people. So I felt like this is pretty interesting. Like
Yeah.
I want to laugh when I saw some of the comments, but then I thought like this is what people mean that when you have haters, many times it helps the algorithm. That
Was that
wasn't.
short form or long form or
That
video?
was short. Like
Uh,
okay, no,
I
maybe that
I
might
was
be a.
gonna guess that I think it might be short form. Yeah.
Yeah, those were shorts, pure shorts. So maybe that has a lot of, yeah, that influence a lot the type of comments we might get. But the funny thing, what I felt from that is like great that I can make these videos seen by many people, but now I that brought me thinking of what type of content do I want to create. Because
Yeah.
like yeah, this keep on growing, but that's the type of content I'm not proud. That might be practical for me to learn because I keep on improving them so more people watch them.
Uh-huh.
But it was like now what I feel like a challenge will not be if I can make something viral, because at the end of the day, if you really want to make something viral, you have a ways to choose topics and things that people end up seeing just by how our minds and like work. But my challenge was how can I make something I found valuable
Yeah.
and eventually see what happens. Like all people find valuable, so therefore I started doing this. But I just want to mention that because my experience was like a ton of bad comments, and that was
That's
what made
really
those
fun.
videos
That's the
going.
complete opposite. Um, but I think one thing that is really nice about YouTube is that the algorithm tends to find things that are valuable eventually, even if it doesn't right away. Unlike other algorithms, like a few social networks that we know,
Uh-huh.
there isn't a penalty. There isn't such a penalty for content that's old. Something that's old but is still valuable, it will come back again and again on YouTube.
That what you just said, I think it is very interesting, and I have seen that phenomenon like with some of the videos,
Mhm.
like when people is like first comment is please somebody make this video viral, what it just why this video has only 5 views, and
Yeah,
then you see over the years, and then other people later on commenting now 1 million
yeah,
views after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then you start seeing those kind of videos. As you said, the thing that is valuable eventually, it takes some time sometimes, but it eventually get distributed among the networks. More people get to see it, and I do see that happening on YouTube for sure. Mm, and currently, because uh, that's how you started. So you started 2 years ago.
mhm.
So what are you currently working on? Because I remember you were some months ago really focusing on these sessions, helping people build their ideas. What are you currently working on today?
Yeah, so my first phase was making tutorials about how to use different developer tools, how to deploy apps to the cloud, these kind of things. Later on, when I got a little bit more confidence, I realized, oh, it's a lot more fun if I can just like work with other people. It's more motivating. Just like learning together is more fun. So I tried making some videos with other people. Um, this was before any live streaming, and I would just make a video about, oh, how did you make this? How did you make that? How does this tool work? um, how would this be used by a software developer? And that went pretty well. For example, I made one with someone who I just randomly emailed, who was a Bubble developer, Bubble, like the low
Hmm.
code platform. And he
Hmm.
was a professional Bubble developer. And I said, hey, I love your work. Would you make a video with me? And um, he did like a short interview and an explanation of how to make an app, how to make a clone of Airbnb, and that video went great.
Oh, I saw that one actually.
So so that was sort of the progression, and at some point, um, that was right before I joined Build Space in San Francisco, and at that point, I realized there was an opportunity maybe to bring on even more people and to maybe make something that's even more spontaneous, you know? Because like recording something and then in a day editing it and uploading it is really fun. Uh, but it's also really tiring. And it also just like, it doesn't give people that genuine connection of how you feel when you're actually building something. It's super polished. So I was sort of heading towards this direction of oh, giving people the real experience. And that's when I started
Mhm.
live streaming building apps with people. Oh, let's just get on a live stream and let's build something together. And if we spend 1 hour just fighting with bugs, then that's it, you know? And a lot of the time that happened, but sometimes magic happened as well. And
Hmm.
and from there, um, I had a few sessions. So I did many of those, like dozens of those. And from then I've gone on to, you know, the next phase, which is, you know, teaching people in groups. And I've been doing that for the past couple of months. And we live stream all of that. So we have people joining from all around the world, 5 different continents, maybe 6, and joining in on workshops and building things together on the live stream, in all different time zones. And we're just having a good time learning about different topics from Python to AI coding, to low code development, any yeah automation, and just building this community where people can come together, share things, teach each other, and feel like they're sort of almost in the same room with people, you know, sharing stuff that they learned.
I just find that what you said very powerful. Like coming from the time of raw material, the moment you say like, okay, I can make a podcast, like or a long video, I can edit it the next day. But when you go live, it's like that's what it is. Like
Yeah,
what you see there is what happened. So it's just kind of very pure. It's like no bullshit there. Like it's what it is. Simple as that. So that can give you, because we had that experience together, right? And I thought I thought like, wow, this is pretty cool. But also like we go through things like, oh, how can we do this, or oh, let's look for this. Like we see the whole process. So it's not like cutting the process and just showing, when people is cooking food, doing a show on food, and then they talk about the recipe, and then they suddenly show the recipe done, kind of this quick. No, you don't have that. You have all progression as real time, right? So I guess it's not content for everybody, but it's a content that cannot be generated by AI, in the sense of uh, the process, the human process when we go through things, is also very valuable. It's valuable for ourselves because we get it embed, we get the experience, but also I find that people find very interesting to watch the process of things. Like, how did you make that song? And then you see the whole progress, what the people went through. How did you build that thing? And then you see the whole process. Of course, there are things that take very long that you might want to speed up, but as long as it's possible to show the process, there's a lot of to learn on that raw form. And now when you bring that into groups, it's like, wow, that's more exponential, even because now you have the interactions between the people
yeah,
also happening there. That's amazing. At least for me, it's a content I watch and participate, of course.
yeah. It's really fun, and it also brings out what's missing from all of the polished videos. Often is the emotional aspect of it. People have said to me, "Oh, you've been coding for, you know, 15 years, 20 years, so you never get frustrated with anything. You have this patience and you can debug anything." But one of the great things about doing this live streaming is that I get caught. I get caught on camera, getting frustrated, sweating, you know, getting flustered, like getting flustered because I thought something was gonna work and now it's not working. And I mean, that's such a gift to give to people that are new to coding, to show them that like the learning process never ends, and no matter how much experience you have, you're still going to get frustrated at small things.
And I guess that they can extract out of that the fact that even if you feel frustrated on those moments, you keep on going.
Yeah,
You gotta keep on going. Like that's the thing. At the end of the day, those moments gonna come, but also eventually you keep on moving. So that evolves. And there's a question of the audience, which is, where can we find you when you are not coding?
where can you find me when I'm not coding?
Uh huh.
Well, I have a nice backyard back here. We have I have a slack line back there, so I like to go and try and play around on there. Um, or maybe I'm walking, going for a walk outside in the woods. Um, I have out the other window. I have a motorcycle, so I might be riding that around. Sometimes listen to music or audiobooks.
Hmm. That means that you enjoy disconnecting, like from electronics, from everything, and you like to go have a real life outside experiences. That's the other part of you.
Yeah, I think disconnecting is what keeps me sane and strong.
Well, in a way, I guess this is actually something I thought these days. Like we tend to say like disconnect, like oh we like to go out and disconnect, but maybe we can look at it in the other way. Is a way to connect with actually all the things, right? We always connect at the end of the day.
Of
It's
course.
just that we switch attention to other things, and I
Yeah,
guess that's part of the balance, because if we only give attention to the mind, the body will be complaining that like, hey, that whatever we don't use, it gets damaged over time. It's funny, we tend to have more damage for not using something than for using it. So I found that also very important, also for young people getting into code, is like, hey, cool that you love this stuff, cool that you like to be connected, but also if you don't take care of the other aspects of life, then you will pay the price over time to not have full capacity when you are sitting right there, because it's part of the balance. What would you say to a young uh, person that wants to get into becoming a developer? Like, what would you advise to them? If you just, I mean, advice is a word that I don't know, but what would you say to them?
my first piece of advice is don't do it alone. So you need to connect with like-minded people any way that you can. Like whether that's going to your friend's house and coding together, or commenting on a YouTube video or on Discord, or mess or finding people through GitHub, or Twitter and asking them questions about code. It's really important to start doing that. For me, I think that the first time I did that was actually through like an email. Um, it was like an email user group, for programmers back in the day. And even that, I would have done that so much more. I wasn't really comfortable doing that at first. Like, I didn't really know. Was I looking dumb? I was looking dumb, but it didn't matter. Like, uh, I would have done way more of that, um, going back to when I started out learning how to code.
So basically, you will tell to those young developers, get part of a community, right? Like get
Yeah,
connected with others. Um, because what you just said about feeling dumb, is like sometimes when we start asking the first questions, like, oh, will this be a dumb question? Like, will I look like a stupid person if I ask this? But
yeah.
it's super important. Like eventually, as you say, like it become a way to learn, but also it makes things more fun. and that you keep your mind open with that those interactions.
The embarrassing questions that you ask are the ones that you never forget.
Oh yeah.
So they become programmed into your brain.
I mean, I felt that way a few days ago. Anyway, but so totally, I agree with that statement. Mm, even if I think this would be a very, very cool topic on itself, just talking about like what are those first steps for young developers. But there are some other topics. I asked with some friends like, hey, what would you like to hear? Like if I have the opportunity to talk with a great human, great developer, and they did ask me certain things, and they're like, this type of question of, uh, what are your thoughts on AI? And do you envision it as something truly transformative for our civilization, or it is just pure hype?
Wow. Probably a bit of both. I think AI is something that has been around since, I don't know, at least as early as the 60s. You could even make the case that it's been around, a lot longer than that, depending on how you define it. So I think that hype definitely comes and goes over time. But yeah, it's something that has been a part of programming in computers for a long time, and im- it grows over time gradually with us, if that makes sense.
Mm, I guess that at the beginning it wasn't called AI. That's one of the things I have heard. Like it was like it had different names, and before AI was like more like machine learning approach. But lately we have seen many advances on it, and a lot of money put it into it, and a lot of people talking about. But do you see it as something that has a potential, like, to change some of our future as humanity? um what would you say that would be the best scenario, like if AI advance, like how you can imagine the world in 10 years if AI goes the way people is talking about? Or opposite to that, do you have a different vision, like maybe it's just pure hype and in 10 years we just have a more intelligent chat box and just a couple of more capabilities?
Wow. That's a great question. I tend to not think in such extremes. I feel that um, technology really depends on how that it's used. So, um, if we look at like some of the particular areas where AI can be really helpful, um, I think I think it's in basically automating away like dangerous jobs, maybe jobs that are harmful to humans, repetitive jobs, and giving us more time. Um, so really, it's just another step in automation that's been going on since forever, since before the Industrial Revolution, that has been improving our quality life and giving us more time back. That said, it really is something that depends on how people use it. Like a lot of technologies, like most technologies. And I think it's really important um, that we learn from, the past, and rather than rushing towards um, the biggest, most advanced AI that we can, like really finding use cases where it's really helping people that really need it.
So you'll talk about being more authentic on directing our focus toward the areas that it can really have an impact. Like I was talking to a friend a few days ago, and I was saying like the power of pattern recognition that AI has, it is amazing, but it needs a direction, a human direction, of pointing out to the things that we can really have an impact if
Mm.
we become better at recognizing the patterns. So an example could be biomedicine, for example, where you can recognize patterns for diagnosis of diseases on a very early stages or other kind of things that go along those lines. But it is funny because some of the memes around like, yeah, I hope like my vision of AI was for it to wash my dishes and
Yeah,
and do this so I can dedicate myself to paint, to do painting designs, stuff, art, music. And now it's the opposite. It's doing music, it's doing designs, and now I need to wash my dishes anyway. So
yeah,
people just
and that all depends on where we invest. Like we can, it's not fixed. The order of technological developments that we make, like isn't fixed. Like for example, we didn't have to go to the moon before we invented the internet, right? We could have invented the internet first and then decided to go to the moon. And so like there isn't some fixed order of things. I think with AI, like we should consider that like um yeah, maybe it is worth, like your friend was saying, like maybe we don't need to make the AI that makes movies yet. We could maybe work on that AI that is maybe um, rescuing people or doing dangerous jobs underground, these kind of things. That's a choice that we have.
so what would you say there is like it is very important where we are focusing
Yeah,
on the use
always.
of this technology. I agree with you as well. Like I heard that for first time in the history of humanity, we have the capability and the resources to solve most of the issues we have as humanity in general. So when we have such a power and capacity of as humanity, the focus on what we are directing our attention and resources becomes super important. So, so I'm down to see what are we able to do with it actually that makes sense.
Yeah.
And commenting on that, since I know you have been developing these AI foundations
Uh-huh.
courses and you're
Yeah.
working upon this topic, what lessons or what have you learned about cognition or learning from studying machine learning that could be relevant to how humans learn? Like, what will be something that you have find like an interesting parallel between those two things that can be useful for humans on their learning process?
Oh wow. I don't know if I don't know if I have learned something that can be really helpful in that sense. I mean, machine learning so my co-instructor, his name is Naveed, and we teach together, and he's an amazing teacher. And he said, in our most recent lesson on the lesson that we're preparing for you for later this week, he talks about neural networks, and he says, the neural network is inspired by the human brain, but it's not a simulation of the human brain because nobody knows how the human brain works, including neuroscientists. Um, so it's definitely something that like gives you a sense of wonder, a huge sense of wonder, because it just makes you realize how little we actually know about what's in there. Um, because the AI does not like exactly this is not like one for one with the human brain. But it just brings up like all these really, really, really interesting questions for me that's really fun to think about though. Like for example, there's this book called Thinking Fast and Slow, which is about how humans have like we have like an instinctive way of thinking. Um, like I see you, and then right away I'm like, oh, that's Soul, and I feel good, because he's my friend, and I'm not don't even have to think, But then we also have like a more drawn out way of thinking, which is like logic and doing math and equations, which uses more energy. And so, um, like LLMs sort of remind me of that first instinctive way of thinking. And so that sort of made me think a lot about, where does this logical part of our brain come from? And, is it really like, are we humans really good at logic, or are we just sort of like LLMs? Are we sort of just like doing instinctive motions over and over and over again, until we come up with something that we feel is right? Like, I could think about that for a while. It's pretty interesting.
It definitely is pretty interesting. Well, you started saying that you didn't know, but actually, what you just said, that opens a huge door, like to explore. Because one of the things on the topics I'm very interested, as I have told you, which is bioelectricity,
Uh huh.
uh, biology, and what I have seen is like the level of computation that happens around our cells is insane. Like the way our body works is such a high level of intelligence that we have many different levels of intelligence happening on this whole mechanism. So and this is a wonderful reflections on how can we make AI work better. But
Yeah.
at the same time, we can use AI to explore how our system works on more depth, right? Analyzing it better, the data that we have, and just experimenting on predicting how interactions happen inside our body. So it's funny because I guess it's a correlation now. Like we have the carbon based life and then the silicon based life now coexisting together, and this relation could be very like it could give a lot of value if you use it properly, and especially on the experimenting how things work, because we tend to develop technology uh, through what we are able to perceive, because at the end of the day technology is a way to enhance our capabilities. So anytime we perceive something, we are able to eventually find the technology to enhance that capability we have as humans. So it's funny because if we are not able to perceive something about our nature, about how the world works, so we are not able to develop technology towards that direction. But every even now technology is also helping to unlock different ways to see the world, things that we can discover. So that relation, it's very interesting. So I find that fascinating now, the possibility we have to discover the world and then use that to improve all that we have created eventually. So that's amazing. And this is a hard one because I know like the Nvidia CEO, when he say this, like the context, maybe people didn't have the context when
Uh
he
huh.
said that, but they took that literal. So many people ask and talk about like, hey, do you think that coding will become obsolete and then be replaced entirely by AI? um and people were scared about that, and everyone was talking about that. Now they were like, damn, we never thought AI will come for programmers first. But so
Yeah.
what's your thoughts on this? Like, what's your opinion upon that statement?
I I believe he said something in an interview or something where he said that um, coders are going to become obsolete, and people should don't need to learn programming in the future or something like that, or the skill will be less important. That's something like what he said, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's
Uh,
mentioned something like that out of a big contest window. They just
yeah.
took that small
So,
sample.
so I heard about this first from actually a student in an organization where I was teaching, um, in San Francisco, and I was like, yeah, the student was saying, yeah, I heard this that the CEO of NVIDIA said this, and yeah, I don't really know anymore. Like, is it even worth learning how to code? And I was like, what's happening? I had to look up, like, I had to go look at the video. Like, how could he, how could anyone say that? Um, I think, I, 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 I don't know why he said that, but, I actually believe that it's, completely, I, I would actually go completely against that idea and say that it's actually going to be the opposite. Um, the and it's possible for this, for this to happen. Um, the fact that we have AI available will make programming a even more needed skill. And now you can kind of talk about, well, what do you really mean by programming, right? You're doing a lot of programming with ChatGPT that I've seen recently. But like, what does it really mean, to code?
I guess that what is code? Here I will go a bit off topic from how I see it. Is like, like, we have heard many times that words have power, and when we say something that has a lot of power,
Yeah.
uh, and what I see is that it is funny. I mean, if you ever read the Bible or kind of this stuff, it's starting saying like, yeah, the first thing was the words, like God speak, and then creation happened, right?
Mhm.
In the real world, like in the physical world, it has some correlation. Of course, you say a bunch of people, hey, you are directing them, you give them the instructions, we will do this and this and that, and then things happen. Things can happen. But coding is that literal possibility of bringing an idea, literally only through the language, through the words,
Yeah.
using logic, of course,
Yeah.
to describe a problem in the most precise way possible and try to implement a solution in the most precise way possible. So that's just a way of thinking.
Beautiful description.
That's bringing clarity. There is a high degree of clarity. It has such a high degree of clarity that it becomes something real. Well, it becomes a living thing, an app, for example, a
Yeah.
program, a function, uh, and that's, I mean, it's magic in the sense it makes us wonder, right? It has a very clear reason of why it happens. Yeah, because then if you go from the human language of let's say we are programming in Python, and then if you go all the scale to binary code, zeros and one, and at the end of the interaction with electricity, and then machine understanding the instructions, like it's amazing, how you go from something simple for us on our context of saying, of starting coding, to something that's very far from our understanding of things, which is zeros and ones at the end of the day, right? To the machine language, and how where time, anytime time pass more, we become coding become closer to the human language. Actually, until the ChatGPT era, which is now you can say something on plain English. And I remember, I think it was Andrew Carpati or maybe Ilya Sutkatberg, one of those, they say like now English is the hottest programming language. It's becoming the hottest
Yeah.
programming language.
Yeah.
So, but still, even if you are using ChatGPT, here is the thing: even still, you are using ChatGPT, you gotta think through it. Still, that logic aspect of first, second, third, fourth, it's key. Otherwise, the result you're gonna have is not what you are expecting or looking towards. So I will see coding not only as the ability of learning a programming language, but as the ability of thinking and bringing a high degree of clarity on your thoughts and ideas, so you can make them a living thing, a working thing. So that's why I guess that even if AI advanced a lot, this is still is super useful for humans, because like what I discovered in working with developers, that was different from working with other kind of people. For example, the way to approach a problem, right? The first thing I said, like, there's a bug. like this thing is not working. I remember working with an app in the past. I was telling my friend like, "Hey, this is not working. Like I go on the page, is it giving me an error? So do something." And then he's like, "Well, that still is not useful for me." I say, "What do you mean? That's so absurd. Can you please define every step of the problem so we can look if we can replicate, if we can understand what is actually happening? Because the whole idea of you reporting a problem is that we can find a solution." So that first interaction, I find it remarkable because my mind was like, wow, if we actually look at problems this way on real life in many occasions, this will do wonder, because then we stop only complaining about things and start defining things towards a solution, optimizing a problem towards a solution. And that I find it fascinating. That was truly got me into wanting to learn about code. Does that thought process? So I think this today and in 100 million of years, if we are alive, is fundamental for humans. That approach.
Beautifully said. I think that we have that, um, and we're always going to need that. The need to like express what it is that we want to make, in a clear way.
Like relationships, like everybody today a day is talking about clear communication, like how does our communication problems. So how important, like, I mean, I don't know what you think, like, if you could say
Everyone,
like.
everyone agrees that clear communication is important, but I've never met a person who is perfect at clear communication.
Me neither. I guess that's some part of the beauty of
Yeah.
humans. We are like we have many intersections between sometimes what we think, what we feel, how we see
Right.
things from outside. So even sometimes we want to say something straightforward, then we look at the context and it's like, I don't know if this is what corresponds to say in this moment, or maybe if I say this, she will be angry. I know it. So so what to do in a given moment? But well, that could you imagine the application of coding principles into human relations?
um, I don't know. Wow. Humans are not very logical, you know? And also, I don't want to program you, soul. I want you to do something that I don't expect you to do. That's part of what makes talking to you fun. However, with the computer, that's part of what makes it frustrating, but also fun but frustrating at the same time, but in a different way. With the computer, I eventually wanted to do exactly what I'm saying, but with you, I'm happy if you never do exactly what I say, and you come up with new ideas and new things to entertain me.
I mean, we humans, I guess we like a lot to say that we are like today our day is like in the past, you people were proud to say I'm very strong. I'm
Yeah,
very strong. In recent age, people is proud to say I'm very logic, very
yeah.
deductive, right? How true is that? Uh, I don't know. We like to say that, but often when you see every decision made by humans, they are far away from logic in a big percentage. They're more driven to many other factors than just pure logic.
Uh,
But I guess we need to be able to use logic as a tool totally for many decision making and stuff, but we should be able at the same time to be crazy, to just go beyond the logic in an unexpected way. Those are the things that make wonderful a human being. It's able to apply logic when needed, but it's able to go crazy. If you want to go party and dance, what is the logic there? No, you gotta just go beyond that. Or if you are willing to love, sometimes you gotta let the logic, because sometimes things just don't make logic, but they feel great. So that's some of the human nature that we have upon us. However, now when things started becoming more interesting, still, uh, we are running out of time for this session today. But before we finish, I really want to thank you for being part of this podcast, for being with me today. Uh, for me, it's a great honor, like to have friends and people I like appreciate and admire like you here. That's what makes sense beyond how many people look at this and stuff. Is like time can pass and we can look upon these conversations and it's like, how amazing, like we were living and doing these things at that time. So thank you for being here today. Hopefully we can have another sessions, like let's see what
Mhm.
another topics will come along the way. But for today, it has been amazing to hear your story, also to hear your point of view upon these interesting topics. And later on, it will be on the description for people to find your YouTube channel and all of the things you are doing, so people can discover. Because I recommend for everybody that watch this and that listen to us, that go follow James, and also if they have the opportunity to join some of the things you are doing currently. I'm probably a part of it, so I find it fascinating and very valuable. That said, James, thank you very much for our session today, man. I I deeply grateful and have enjoyed it a lot.
Hey man, it's been really awesome seeing you learn how to code. I've learned a lot from learning with you. So, and it's been really really fun. It's been it's been a huge pleasure. Can't wait to see more of these. To watch the rest of this series after this episode and see. It's going to be more about education, right?
Yeah, we're
I
gonna
love.
I'm gonna have the topic of education, because that's what connect us.
I'm so
So
excited for this. Thank you.
thank you to you, James. And for everybody, have a wonderful time and thank you for watching the Life Hackers podcast, and see you soon for more.